Hi, everybody. This is Austin with Fantasy Baseball on Deck, and we're specifically going to go over waiver wires and players to target to fulfill your roster in the way that you need it. I'm going to go over the players that I feel are most meaningful, most valuable, and are probably available, again, in your specific Fantasy Baseball league. So let's jump into it. If you are someone that has had to put people to the IL, fill up your IL already, came into the season with an IL that was already full, whatever, people getting hurt, can't really control it, but we can do our best to adapt and survive from week to week. So, if you had a Max Fried that went out on opening day, a Robbie Ray that went out on opening day, and Eloy Jimenez, who I had in both of my leagues, you need to make sure that you're, scooping people off of the free agent pile that, are currently perceived and undervalued their actual value, because we don't really know what their playing time is going to be, what their optics are. But as we go through, now we're a week into the season, we have a better idea of kind of who is going to be more relevant than others. And that's what I'm going to cover today. So the hottest player on the free agency pile, as you can probably imagine, is Adam Duvall. Adam Duvall is currently rostered in 56.5% of leagues, even though he is currently the number one ranked outfielder and probably position player in general in baseball so far. It's just starting out super duper hot. But how do we determine who is, for real, who's sustainable, and who's just kind of a flash in the pan and it's going to fade off? And the things that I wanted to say about Adam Duvall is that with the way that Boston structured their roster, Adam Duvall is expected to be the everyday center fielder for Boston. So he's going to play, if he's healthy, 160 out of 162 games because he has to. He's their best outfielder. And you think of Adam Duvall as being a big power guy. I didn't even understand that last season, in 2021, he was a Gold Glove outfielder for the Miami Marlins in right field. So obviously he's plenty capable of playing the outfield slot. Obviously, he's mostly been a corner outfielder. Even with the Reds back in 2016 through 18, he was a left fielder. Traditionally a corner outfielder, but is expected to play every day in center field for Boston. So the understanding that, yes, he is a good defender and that he is one of the more capable bats in that lineup, they can't really afford to take him out. In 2021, he had a season that was absolutely to remember, but people don't pay attention to the Miami Marlins, certainly not to Adam Duvall. Adam Duvall is never going to make headlines in the newspaper, on TV, whatever. But to go through the stats, in 2021, Adam Duvall had 38 home runs, which is the second in the NL. He had 113 RBIs, which is first in all of the National League. And again, I said that he earned a Gold Glove that same year. Didn't earn an all-star bid. I think a lot of his success came after the all-star game, or really hit his stride, finished really strong, similar to a Joey Votto MVP year when he was competing against Giancarlo Stanton. Came into the the halfway, you're just over the halfway point, the all-star game, with just good numbers but not great numbers, and then just really turn it on and finish strong. So far, Adam Duvall in 2023, he's been the AL Player of the Week. He's second in batting average. He is third in on-base percentage, first in slugging, first in on OPS, first in runs, first in RBIs, second in hits, and first in total bases, which total bases is the pure measure of how individually productive a hitter is, regardless of what's happening around him. How productive are you as an individual? And that's that number is really important because that's how we determine really who's better and how can we forecast the difference between a Brian Reynolds on the Pittsburgh Pirates when he is really the only threat. How individual is he? How can we measure him given that there's not a lot of help around him? Compared to a Francisco Lindor last season, who was on a very good offense playing in the number 3 hole, who probably was okay productive, but it was surrounded by a ton of talent, kind of making up for in a lot of bonus points. So I consider him a very lucky player, and he's kind of showing it starting off slow this season. That's not what I'm talking about. Adam Duvall, I think, is a really good investment, 56% overall. He's been a 40 home run approximately guy in the past, like there's no reason not to think that he's not going to do that for the rest of this year, knowing that he's going to get at-bats every single day. I don't expect him to keep up his crazy high batting average. Like this 476 is crazy. He's traditionally, I'd say, a 240 hitter. Even if he goes down to 240 with the elimination of the shift, I would consider him adding 10 to 20 batting points onto his batting average. I think he's going to be more sustainable than not. Maybe not the number one overall batter, but I could see him being a top 20 outfielder certainly for the rest of the season, given how things have gone just through the first week and how many base runners there are and how much more scoring there is and this, that, and the other. So next I want to go into the three-headed trio that is the St. Louis Cardinals infield. So obviously there's been a lot of production in the Cardinals infield, and not just the infield, but the middle infielders between Brendan Donovan, Nolan Gorman, and Tommy Edman that essentially all play the same position. After 1 week of viewing them and why Brendan Donovan and Nolan Gorman weren't drafted in most leagues this year, obviously there's been a 45% increase with Brendan Donovan because he's eligible in second base, third base, outfield, and some other on some other websites, he's actually eligible in first base and shortstop too. So the only thing he doesn't play is catcher and pitcher in some leagues. But seeing that 45% increase, he's been really successful. But what is the underlying story that we can't get from the box score? And what I have determined and what I have figured out through watching the Cardinals play is that Brendan Donovan is going to hit the leadoff spot when right-handed pitching is available. There's more right-handed pitchers on the planet than there are left-handed pitchers just by design. But Brendan Donovan is unfortunately getting benched when left-handed pitchers come up to the mound and face against the Cardinals. We were shown this just the other day. He was the leadoff starting again, second baseman every day until he hit 2 days ago it's now Thursday. So Tuesday did not start. And then even just yesterday, probably faced another left-handed hitter or pitcher, maybe Bryce Elder's left-handed. I don't know, but only got 2 at-bats. Or maybe he walked. Regardless, what's happening? If there's a left-handed pitcher that's coming up, against the Cardinals, Brendan Donovan's going to go from a very valuable leadoff position to sitting the bench, which regardless of like how many positions he's eligible in, he's not useful to you if he's not playing every single day. So in my personal opinion, I think that Brendan Donovan is a trade candidate. The fact that he's scored so many points so far this year, he's owned in 66% of leagues and it's only going up. His stats are still really good. Given his roster flexibility, I think you could get back a really, really solid player or players for him. I just think that this is going to be his highest perceived value, given how early it is in the season. There hasn't been enough time for other players and their number of at-bats to really separate themselves from Brendan, just given how little he's actually on the field moving forward. So next player we're going to go to is we're going to talk about Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman has also started out really hot this season. He's only owned in 22.5% of leagues. He's hitting 500. That's awesome, right? Only eligible in second base, but second base sucked this year. So maybe, people in your league, they need second baseman. He's only 22% rostered, as I said before. But the thing is that Nolan Gorman in 5 games with the St. Louis Cardinals so far this year, he started every game except for, again, when a left-handed pitcher comes to face the Cardinals. He was replaced by Juan Yepez to start in his place. And every time that he's played so far this year, as I mentioned, Brendan Donovan's been starting at second base. Nolan Gorman has been hitting the DH slot every single day. So if you get a player that's just defensively not as equipped to his peers, whether he can play the position or not, he's just going to be slotted in that DH hole. And when there's players that take priority over Nolan Gorman, he's going to be the first guy that gets slotted to the bench. If you can think about, if they are going to give anybody a rest, they're going to give Jordan Walker a rest. If they're going to give Nolan Arenado a rest, certainly if they're going to give Paul Goldschmidt a rest day in the future, which is certainly going to happen, they're going to slot him into that DH spot, which means Nolan Gorman every time is going to be the odd man out. So even though I have him on my roster, it is going to be until I get close to getting, like I showed before, getting Fernando Tatis Jr. back on my roster so I can slot him into that same slot and move forward with him instead of Nolan. But maybe by that time, his perceived value will go up even more. He'll continue to hit well, and I can maybe trade him. Though Tommy Edman has scored far less than his peers, Nolan Gorman and Brendan Donovan. We have also determined that Tommy Edman, being a switch hitter, eligible at second base and third base, he's eligible at 93% of leagues, or he's owned in 93% of leagues. If you're a Tommy Edman owner, or if you do not own Tommy Edman, I would consider him either a player that you stick with or a player that you trade. The situation with Tommy Edman is that he, against right-handed pitching, he is bad. He's a switch hitter. He is batting the 9 hole. So he's getting less at bats than anyone on that roster. The 9 hole is a curse. Even though you're being followed up by the top of the order, you're just not getting the volume to keep up with your peers. You have to be extremely efficient in order to be a 9 hole hitter and be like a top 5 player at your position. It's just not going to happen. So Tommy Edman, being batting against right-handed pitching as the 9 hole. We also learned that when left-handed pitching starts the game, he is the leadoff hitter. We've always appreciated Tommy Edman for how many steals he gets. He had 30 steals approximately last season. This is a player who is going to do the same thing. He's not going to get any outfield time this year, and he already lost his outfield eligibility. But Tommy Edman, of all of the 3-headed monster of just a lot of talent with not a lot of spaces to go, Tommy Edman's going to be the only one of the 3 players that plays every single day, gets the appropriate amount of volume to be able to roster him and put him into your, keep him on your team, essentially. The more and more I think about it, the more I think that, you want Tommy Edman to go on a little bit of a hot stretch, and then I probably would try to trade him just because, again, the 9 hole is pretty detrimental. And given that he was drafted at the number 97, a top 100 pick overall, you just want to make sure that you're getting that perceived value back before, he gets passed too far by the rest of his peers. So let's go on to the 4th St. Louis Cardinal. That is Jordan Walker. And Jordan Walker, I've talked about before, I think is my NL Rookie of the Year candidate. And I wanted to further illustrate the value of Jordan Walker, given that he's only owned in 52.8% of leagues, which is crazy. Jordan Walker, if we compare him against Julio Rodriguez, and obviously baseball is not just an athletic sport. It's very tangible. It's very fundamental. But Julio Rodriguez, being a very, very special athlete, is 6'3", 228 pounds, and he ranked in the 86th percentile in sprint speed, according to StatCast, which again just measures how fast a player is at top speed. If we look at Jordan Walker, so Julio Rodriguez, 6'3", 228 pounds, 86th percentile. Jordan Walker, 6'6", 3 inches taller, 245 pounds, around 15 pounds heavier, and was in the 93rd percentile. So 7 percentage points higher, that much faster than Julio Rodriguez is, also at the same position with third base eligibility too. He's not given the opportunity to hit leadoff like Julio is, and has like in Seattle for his career so far in the majors. But I think that Jordan Walker is the best value going. He's hit his first home run of the season today. His points are obviously going to increase, significantly from today. But I think that, again, as he's currently ranked at 52.8, and before he gets that outfield eligibility, I think that it's really, really, it'll be a lot easier to draft or trade for him now than it will be in the future. Or I've tried to trade with this individual, and he is unreasonable. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get him. But, if you are in your league, again, it's a new name. Not a lot of people, at least besides fantasy baseball and baseball fans in general, might not know who Jordan Walker is. You might be able to get him on the cheap. Jonathan India, again, moving forward and try to be a little quicker through this episode. Jonathan India, is going to play every single day, the leadoff hitter for the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati Reds have the second most friendly home run ballpark in all of Major League Baseball, just by sheer volume alone. And the fact that he's hitting, he's currently hitting 300 or 286, 389. I put the numbers all over the place. He's currently hitting 389. His healthy year in 2020, he was or 2021, he was a 280 hitter. It was the NL Rookie of the Year. He's more of a volume guy, high contact. He's going to hit at most, I think, 20 home runs. I think that the year that he won NL Rookie of the Year, he hit like 16 home runs, and that's plenty good because he's stealing some bases. He's only like the 73rd percentile in speed. But again, given like the new rules, I expect Jonathan India to steal more than one base that he's had so far, and just be on base all the time because that's what he is. He sees the ball well. He walks a lot. He gets hit by a lot of pitches. This is a player again at the second base position. The fact that he's only owned in 56% of leagues, if he's available in yours, I think it's a really, really safe bet. Especially if you're in a deeper league, if you have a second base and second base shortstop role, Jonathan India is wildly valuable than a Brendan Rodgers or a Nolan Gorman because he's literally going to play every day. And you can already see that he scored the same, if not more than both of these players who have been super hot because he's played every day. And that's where he's going to stay. Next, James Outman. James Outman is very, very interesting to me. He's the 10th overall prospect in the Los Angeles Dodgers organization. So not in all of baseball, but in the Dodgers organization. Through the years with these teams that are like big market teams, we can think about a Justin Verlander leaving Houston. We can think about Carlos Correa leaving Houston. Think about Cody Bellinger leaving the Dodgers. People rarely like to focus on who's replacing them. Instead, they just like to focus on the headline of a familiar face in a new space because people interact with that. But the thing with James Outman and the importance of James Outman is that on opening day was the starting center fielder, and he is by far and away the youngest center fielder and the fastest outfielder and athlete that they have on roster. So on opening day, James Outman was announced as the regular center fielder for the LA Dodgers. Chris Taylor was announced to be more of a platoon guy and have to fill in that shortstop role more and more, because of Gavin Lux's injury. And then, Miguel Vargas is also going to slot into second base. So I mixed all that up. Mookie Betts is going to get second base reps. So that's even going to open up more opportunities for James Outman to stay on the field, even though Miguel Vargas is expected to take, that everyday second base role. They've already put in Mookie Betts at second base one game so far this season. So that's just one more slot for James Outman to facilitate while he's on the field. If I look at his tangibles, 94 percentile sprint speed. So far, he's been a majority extra base hits. The other day, he had 2 triples. He had a home run on opening night. This is a player that's hitting for power, hitting for speed. He just has to carve himself out playing time. And that's all that matters for James. I have him in my 2 other leagues that are listed here. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for stolen bases and this, that, and the other. So the other potential outfielders he's competing with Mookie Betts is never going to not be in the starting lineup, whether he's at right field, second base, or even resting at DH. Mookie Betts is going to be in there. But with the others, JD Martinez at 35 years old is the DH only, not playing outfield. David Peralta, it's a missionary, signed off the free agency pile at 35 years old, only left a corner outfielder throughout his career, not going to play center field. Chris Taylor has played center field before, but expected again to platoon and play a lot at shortstop out of necessity. Not as much of a threat at 32 years old to James Outman. Jason Hayward at 33 years old has traditionally been a corner outfielder as well, and is not going to be as fast. Obviously, he's had a hot bat the last couple of games, but is not going to play center field. Trayce Thompson at 32 years old has experience playing center field, but all of Trayce Thompson's points have come from his one game where he hit 3 home runs. Trayce Thompson is not supposed to be an everyday player. So that's really James's only competition at the center field spot. And he's given away a couple of times, I think, as long as James continues to hit, for average and power the way that he is, given his versatile abilities, at 286, like this is a player that you can be pretty safe in and be kind of ahead of the curve on. Next, I want to talk about, I didn't go over Logan O'Hop. So Logan O'Hoppy, however people are pronouncing it. Logan O'Hop's backstory, really, really good. Brandon Marsh, who was an outfielder for the LA Angels, got traded to the Philadelphia Phillies for Logan O'Hop. Logan O'Hop is the Angels' number one prospect in their organization. And he's a top 100 prospect overall. Brandon Marsh was a really high prospect in one of those situations where the Angels needed a catcher. The Phillies, their best prospect was a catcher, and they certainly don't need one with JT Realmuto and the amount of money he's being paid and how consistent he is as a player. So it was mutually beneficial to make that trade. Logan O'Hop, he's already hitting 286. He's averaging 2.4 bases per hit, total bases per hit. So he's hitting over a double per hit this year at a 286 average. Obviously, it's young into the season. He just hit his second home run today. He's going to play 4 out of 5 games every single week. If there's 7 games in a week, if they played all 7, he's going to play 6 of them. He's super duper young. His knees can take it. He's going to catch as many innings as he can possibly get because he is their best option and they have a lot invested into him. They want him to be that captain behind the plate moving forward. So Logan O'Hoppy, if your catcher position is murky to say the least, if you have an injury or something, he's a really, really good ad stash. And to stay with the catcher position, obviously, Sean Murphy, who was Wright State Raider, right down the road from me, traded from the Oakland Athletics into Atlanta's program, is expected to be, that everyday 5-hole hitter for Atlanta. And that was the case on opening day. But Travis surprisingly has taken the DH role in every single game so far this year. So what's really interesting, if we look at his at bats, he's obviously hitting 455, and that's going to keep you in any lineup more often than not. But if we go back to opening day as a catcher, he's played only one of his games so far of Atlanta's games. Has he been at catcher? So the fact that they played again today, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row, Atlanta's played, and they have had Duran in the lineup between catcher one time and the DH the rest of the time. And not only is he the DH, but today he hit the 4-hole. So they're having him at the top of this elite lineup in Atlanta. He's only 30% owned. And if he's just going to be transitioned to more of a DH full-time role, having that catcher eligibility is absolutely huge. He becomes super duper valuable. That's a player that you need to keep your eyes on. If he continues to play every single day, and Sean Murphy, they're paying him that money to be that Gold Glove catcher. If they just basically to get to this point where they say Travis is good enough to just be a hitter alone, and he slots anywhere in that lineup, he's worth having at, again, 30% owned basically for free, especially if you have a bad catcher situation. The next, I want to talk about Trevor Larnach. Trevor Larnach every day except today. He's hit between the 3 and the 4 hole for the Minnesota Twins every single game so far. He was a guy that was not expected to make camp this year before there was an injury to Alex Kirnoff. But the fact that he's hitting 421, this season has been super consistent, playing every single day. He's 5% owned. I already own him in one of my leagues just because I know that he's going to play every single day. Trevor Larnach is a big kid, talented prospect. He was number 3 prospect in the Twins organization just a couple of years ago. And I think he was ranked 80th overall in baseball in 2021 across the top 100. So this is a kid who has a lot to his name, high valued prospect, just kind of fell to the wayside for 2 seasons. And it looks like he's going to hit towards the top of the lineup in that primetime spot on what seemingly was trying to be a playoff roster in Minnesota. We'll see how that works, but Trevor Larnach might be really valuable. Just keep your eyes on him. Miguel Vargas, I talked about before. I have him in all of my leagues because, again, he's just going to become that much more valuable with that second base eligibility, but also he's known as like one of the best pure hitters in his class, just as a hitter alone. He's kind of shifted around from all defensive positions. He's played every defensive position in the infield, and just the fact that he's at the bottom of the lineup with the Dodgers. He had a sore thumb the other day that like he got clipped while he was batting, whatever. Didn't hurt. They kept him out just as a precaution. But just to start the year hitting 375, Miguel Vargas seems like, hey, look, add Miguel Vargas now before it's too late. 27% owned. This player is not going to be less than 50% owned even into next week. He's just too valuable, especially when he gains a second base eligibility. Like his value's only going to go through the roof. Joey Gallo. Obviously, Gallo is volatile when it comes to strikeouts and hasn't hit above 200 since 2016 or something like that. But the fact that the baseball today that we're watching compared to the baseball that we've known throughout our time is so different with the shift that people are, for the first time ever in Joey Gallo's career, are actually having to play him honestly. And even after one day, his average has gone back down to 250. This is where we expect him to be. But if Joey Gallo is hitting 250 for an entire season with an honest defense, like playing him straight up every day, if he is playing every day, he automatically gets a ton of value. Obviously, he's not going to hit 128 home runs this season, which is his current pace per his at bats per home run. But it's a guy that has hit 40 home runs before. He's expected to do. That's why he's getting paid all this money. And a little bonus that so far, every game that he's played in Minnesota, he has an outfield tag, but he's actually played first base every game. So the fact that he's gaining a first base eligibility tag with outfield, that's pretty valuable. It's a guy I'm not investing into too early. I've never, ever owned Joey Gallo on purpose. I haven't believed in the past. But again, I would just like to support the narrative that we've never known what a Joey Gallo is with an honest defense. So there's something to keep your eyes on. Next player I absolutely love. I have him in every league. Justin Steele. This past season had a low 3 ERA with plus strikeouts. He continued the trend just the other day, scoring 22 points in a win. Obviously, you can't predict that they're going to necessarily outbat Milwaukee when he starts. But the fact that he went 6 innings pitched and 8 strikeouts and 3 hits, only 1 walk, great whip. Like, this is a player I expect. I think he's their ace material for the Cubs, their best talented pitcher, but he's just so young. They're probably going to let him throw approximately 120 to 150 innings this year. So he might get restricted, but for now he is very valuable, especially at a 24% owned clip. Jhoan Duran. Jhoan Duran is one of the best relief pitchers in all of baseball, regardless of what team, what you're looking at. Absolutely dominant. His only appearance so far was a save against Kansas City Royals. The only reason he didn't get the save over Jorge Lopez, and if you're a Jorge Lopez owner, trade him immediately, because they're not going to be sharing saves. Like, Jhoan Duran is going to be the full-time save guy. He's already been extended. He's in he was drafted by Minnesota, brought up by Minnesota, that Lopez was traded for last year from Baltimore. So the fact that they gave Lopez the save opportunity because Jhoan Duran was sleeping funny the night before and just felt weird, that's not a cause for concern. Trade Lopez as quickly as possible. The fact that Jhoan Duran's available in this amount, over 50% of leagues, is wild. So that's a player who's last season had almost 40 more strikeouts than he had innings pitched. This is just a guy who's absolutely lights out. Will be one of the best closers in all of baseball this year. Just the fact, again, he's available as nuts. Mike Clevinger, his time in Cleveland was really, really special and had pretty much a really good full season with San Diego when he first got traded there. But just the fact that Mike Clevinger comes into a really good White Sox roster, if they can just stay healthy, they're still really young. They're still going to score a lot of runs. But the fact that he didn't give up any runs the other day, that's great. They played Houston, one of the better offensive rosters in baseball. But what's really exciting to me is that his strikeout rate fell off the face of the planet last year, which is why he's undrafted coming into this year. His ERA was around 4, and he had like 10 or 20 less strikeouts than he had innings pitched this past season. But coming into this first game, even though he was a little inefficient, 3 hits, 3 walks across only 5 innings pitched, but 8 strikeouts. That's wild. And that's really great. Like if Mike Clevinger can maintain that strikeout rate moving forward, then this is a player you absolutely need to like get a hold of. I've already added him in one of my leagues. I think that like this is again a really, really solid opportunity to get a really high value pitcher early in the game. But that doesn't mean drop someone valuable, like super valuable for him. This is when you want to make sure you trade 2 people away, get high quality, within the margins, a player back. Add Mike Clevinger in their place, which is kind of what I did earlier when I talked about in the last video how I traded 2 pitchers for Dalton Varsho, sort of thing. So Patrick Sandoval is the next pitcher I think that has a lot of it's just super quality. He always has a 2-something ERA, so a sub-3 ERA. He's in his age 26 season. This is the season where he should be let loose a little more. It's just that understood that like the Angels are trying to protect him from himself. They roll out the last couple of years with the 6-man rotation. That's just kind of what they've done. Patrick Sandoval is not going to be a double start pitcher a lot of times, and he didn't get as many strikeouts as he usually does, but this is usually someone who, if he went 5 innings pitched, a great, only 2 walks, only 2 hits, 1 earned run, he would have struck out like 7 people. That's kind of been his numbers so far. So Patrick Sandoval doesn't get a lot of volume, doesn't have an opportunity to play a ton, but when he does go out, it's just super quality. I love Patrick Sandoval. I just wish he was allowed to play more because I would own him in all of my leagues if that was the case. Finally, talking about Andres Munoz. Andres Munoz is one of the most talented closers in all of baseball. Him and Paul Sewald are currently, it's announced as them sort of sharing duties. If you click on Munoz, his read up, it shows that he is essentially going to be the main option for saves for the Seattle Mariners. But if you click on the but if one takes the claim for a full-time job, it's probably going to be Munoz. If you click on Paul Sewald's read up, it's like they're going to maybe share. So it's kind of like differing thoughts and opinions, but Munoz is for sure the most athletic and highest ceiling guy. Like he's going to be that closer. He's going to be at very least the high leverage guy. If you get points for holds, Munoz is very valuable, and he should be owned in more than 69% of leagues. If he's available in yours, I'd pick him up as soon as possible. Jack Flaherty, I talked about before, though he walked 7 people across 5 innings pitched, he didn't give up a hit, didn't give up any earned runs. So he's able to wiggle out of all of his problems this past game. And they also let him throw like 93 pitches. The fact that he was almost towards 100 pitches in his very first game was crazy to me. So the fact that like Jack Flaherty he's announced as being healthy, and that's crazy here because that just hasn't happened in a long time. Obviously, like the first time out, 49 out of 95 pitches for strikes is very inefficient. It's why he walked lots of people. But, if you're looking for just overall ceiling potential, obviously Jack Flaherty is a Cy Young candidate, and he has been that in the past. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So, guy, again, he's only 39% owned. It's only going to increase. These guys with big names succeeding in the beginning of the year, they're not going to last very long. You got to add them sooner than later. AJ Puck, super high prospect for the Oakland Athletics for the last several years or more. One of those situations where the Oakland Athletics had more pitching than they needed, than they had bats. They found Miami, of all places, who also has more pitching than they have bats, to swap top prospects. An outfielder for AJ Puck, who's a relief pitcher who has a super high strikeout K/9 ratio. Throughout his time with the Major League club, he was never allowed to get saves in Oakland because they didn't want to actually have to pay him moving forward. But he is by far and away the most valuable and most athletic, highest ceiling guy on the Marlins roster for save opportunities. He is a guy that is going to get the opportunities over Dylan Floro, and that happened now 2 times in a row. He's actually Dylan Floro's come in to set up for AJ Puck. So AJ Puck is kind of unknown to the general public, known to me, but AJ Puck, most athletic, best closer in Miami, and he's only owned 7% of leagues. Marlins are going to win games. They're going to win them close. Liam Hendriks had his last treatment of chemotherapy today, meaning yesterday, 4/5/2023. I don't know what that means. Kind of moving forward, like I don't know how long it will take him to ramp up, given that he's been fighting this for 5 months. Usually it's a 6 to 8 month treatment for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But the fact that Liam Hendriks is, he rang the bell, he's done. It's been announced that Liam Hendriks is the closer for the Chicago White Sox whenever he's able to come back. Move over Kendall Grayman, move over Ronaldo Lopez. It's it's Liam Hendriks' job forever and always. He has the support, the respect. He's an all-star. This is a guy, again, 16% owned. If you can add him and just slot him into your IL and just play the waiting game, that's obviously no investment and no penalty to you whatsoever. But keep an eye on Liam Hendriks updates. Next is AJ Minter. I talked about before. AJ Minter at 29 years old. He's played every season so far throughout his major league career with the Atlanta Braves. AJ Minter statistically, I think, was like the best relief pitcher in all of baseball this last year. He had more holds than anyone did this past season. Had better stats than the guy that was ahead of him, who is now a Boston Red Sox, and Kenley Jansen. He had better stats than Kenley Jansen. What I think this year, they have Raciel Iglesias on roster. He's currently on the IL, but when they traded for Raciel Iglesias last year, he came in as a setup guy, high leverage guy as well, with AJ Minter to tag team to get to Kenley Jansen. Given that AJ Minter has been in Atlanta for his entire career, he's 29 years old. He's put in the time. He's put in the work. Like, it's his time to shine. It's his time to get that opportunity. I think that AJ Minter is going to only succeed. He hasn't given up an earned run through his 3 innings, pitched so far this season. He is going to keep that closer role. It's going to be his, and Raciel Iglesias is going to slot into that setup man spot. And everyone who drafted Raciel is going to be sad and upset, but not us, because we added him way before he was ever owned. He got 34%. And then finally, to get rid of this video and be done with it, Grayson Rodriguez, one of the top, the 5th overall prospect in baseball. Maybe he jumped down to 7, but he was 5 overall last season. At one point, 7 overall, number 1 pitcher available, from the Major League Baseball Pipeline 100. He throughout every single level of the minors has had a crazy high strikeout rate and a good ERA. And why that's important, obviously, is because, again, we have to strike out batters, keep them off the base paths, any balls into play. We've seen it so far this year. The fact that the shift doesn't exist, there's just so many more cracks and things for balls to dribble through. You've seen how every hitter, and their batting average is inflated throughout the year. That's only going to be detrimental to our pitchers. So getting a guy like Grayson Rodriguez really early, who has a really, really high strikeout rate throughout the minors. And this today was his debut, 5 strikeouts across 5 innings pitched, is a pretty solid thing to see for the Baltimore Orioles. And obviously Baltimore doesn't have the biggest payroll, but they have no reason, again, how successful they were last year, they have no reason not to go for it all this year. If they need Grayson to pitch 120, 150 innings, they might just have to do that. So that's the end of episode number 2 of today. And I really appreciate you guys' time. And as I mentioned before, last video, over the last year, I've made a ton of growth with your support. Obviously, the fact that over the last 28 days, you all have watched me talk for 449 hours is really special to me. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers. Currently, I'm only at 200 something. I am very close to being able to earn money back from this thing. So, obviously, people have offered to pay me for my cheat sheet, spend money on some of the things that I offer, my advice and things. I don't want any of that. I want you guys to only support me with just, you get your time and kindness and different things. So good. Let me know how I can make this time more meaningful for everyone. And let me know how I'm doing overall so that I can, again, make as valuable of an experience as I can. So that's the end of today's show. I'm going to go to bed. And I'll see you all maybe tomorrow. All right, bye.